I never thought my father would destroy me in front of the entire board of directors, but there I was, watching 28 years of loyalty crumble into dust as he handed my life's work to my incompetent stepbrother on a silver platter. The mahogany table reflected the faces of executives I'd known since childhood. My father, Richard Sterling, cleared his throat and delivered the words that would shatter my world. Effective immediately, I'm transferring majority control of Sterling Industries to my son, Damian Sterling. He'll be taking over as CEO while I transition to chairman. Noah will be reassigned to Human Resources Administration. Human Resources Administration. Not even HR director. A glorified secretary position. I felt the walls closing in as 20 pairs of eyes turned to me, witnessing my public humiliation. Damien, my 27-year-old stepbrother who couldn't balance a checkbook, sat beside our stepmother Serafina with a smirk that made my stomach turn. Serafina looked like the cat who'd caught the canary, watching my world implode with cold satisfaction. Dad, I think there's been some misunderstanding. We discussed my succession plan last month. I've increased our market share by 30% in 3 years. I've brought in contracts worth over $200 million. Richard's jaw tightened. The board has decided that fresh leadership is what Sterling Industries needs. Damien brings innovative thinking and new perspectives. Innovative thinking. From the man who tried to propose a cryptocurrency venture using company funds. From someone who showed up to meetings hungover and unprepared. This is insane, I said, standing abruptly. I've dedicated my entire adult life to this company. Damien has never successfully completed a single project. That's enough, Noah. The decision has been made. Security will escort you to clear out your office. Security. The word hit me like a physical blow. I looked at my father, this man who had taught me everything about business, who had once told me I was the smartest person he knew. Now he couldn't even meet my eyes. You're making a mistake, I said quietly. You're all making a terrible mistake. Damien finally spoke, his voice dripping with condescension. Don't worry, sis. HR administration is perfect for you. You always were good with people. This company was built by our grandfather's vision and my mother's strength. Under Damien, you'll be lucky if it survives the year. The elevator ride to my office felt like a funeral march. Marcus Reynolds, my mentor and head of RD, appeared in my doorway as I packed. Noah, I'm so sorry. This came completely out of nowhere. Did it? Or have you all been watching Serafina manipulate my father and hoped it wouldn't come to this? Marcus stepped inside and closed the door. Your father's been different since your mother died. Serafina fills some void in him. He pulled out a business card. There's someone you need to see. Harrison, Associates. Ask for William Harrison. Tell him you're Eleanor's daughter. I don't understand. Your mother was planning for the future, Noah. She knew your father's weaknesses and prepared for this possibility. She loved your father, but she loved you more. That evening, I sat in my apartment trying to process everything. My phone buzzed constantly with calls from colleagues and reporters, but I ignored them all. Finally, I called my best friend Chloe Chen. Oh, honey, she said before I could speak. I saw the news. Are you okay? No. Everything I worked for is gone. Come over. We'll figure this out together. The next morning, I called Harrison. Associates. William Harrison's office spoke of old money and older secrets. The man himself was in his 60s, with kind eyes that reminded me of my grandfather. Noah Sterling, he said. You look exactly like your mother. Marcus said you might have information about my mother's plans. William nodded gravely. Your mother came to see me 6 months before she died. She was concerned about your future. He opened a thick folder. She established what she called the Phoenix Trust. $57 million in carefully invested assets, now worth approximately $82 million. I felt like I couldn't breathe. $82 million? The conditions are specific. You must be over 25, unfairly removed from Sterling Industries, and use the funds to establish a competing business operating on environmental sustainability and ethical leadership principles. He pulled out another folder. She also documented every questionable business practice at Sterling Industries. Everything you need to build something better. William handed me an envelope. Your mother left you a letter. With shaking hands, I read, My dearest Noah, if you're reading this, then my worst fears have come to pass. What I can give you is the tools to protect yourself and build something beautiful from disappointment. Don't just rebuild, darling. Rise higher than they ever dreamed possible. The phoenix doesn't just survive the fire. It becomes something magnificent because of it. All my love, Mother. I was crying before I finished reading. For the first time since the disaster, I felt purpose. Over the next 2 weeks, I threw myself into my mother's research. She'd identified opportunities in biodegradable packaging, sustainable construction materials, and eco-friendly manufacturing that Sterling Industries had consistently ignored. I decided to focus on sustainable packaging solutions. When Marcus called to say he was resigning from Sterling Industries, I knew I had my first partner. Damien is an idiot who's going to destroy everything, he said. He's canceled 3 major research projects and fired half the environmental compliance team. I want to help you. I activated the Phoenix Trust and established Phoenix Materials. Our first target was Greenmart, a grocery chain that had been pushing Sterling Industries for sustainable packaging options for years. The meeting with Greenmart's CEO, Patricia Wynn, went perfectly. We could begin production in 6 weeks, while Sterling Industries would need 18 months to retool. When Patricia called a week later with a contract for 50,000 units, I screamed with joy. But our celebration was short-lived. The next morning, Chloe showed me a news article about Phoenix Materials that was full of insider details and quotes from an anonymous Sterling Industries executive calling me unstable and likely to fail. Spectacularly. Damien, I said immediately. Marcus confirmed it. He's hired private investigators to track you and is reaching out to suppliers, trying to convince them not to work with us. I called a press conference that afternoon. 6 weeks ago, I was removed from Sterling Industries. Today, I'm announcing Phoenix Materials, a company dedicated to sustainable innovation and ethical business practices. When a reporter asked about competing with my family's company, I was ready. Sterling Industries taught me what I didn't want to become. A company so focused on short-term profits that it ignores sustainability, so committed to the status quo that it abandons the principles that made it successful. Damien's response was swift and predictable. Sterling Industries issued a statement questioning our reliability. But by attacking us publicly, he'd drawn attention to environmental responsibility, Sterling Industries' weakest area. Stories emerged about Sterling Industries' environmental violations and outdated practices. The tide of public opinion shifted rapidly. Environmental groups and business leaders found a clear alternative to support. Damien started offering Sterling Industries services at cost to prevent client defections, but this only revealed their desperation. Within 6 weeks, Patricia called with an expansion order 10 times larger than our original contract. 3 more major clients signed with Phoenix Materials, including 2 companies that had been with Sterling Industries for over a decade. But success intensified Damien's attacks. He hired more investigators, spread rumors, and filed frivolous lawsuits claiming patent infringement. Most seriously, he began legal harassment that was costing both companies money they couldn't afford. Then Marcus brought me internal Sterling Industries financial documents. The company was hemorrhaging money, losing clients faster than they could replace them, and facing mounting legal challenges. Damien's price cuts had eliminated profit margins. "They're 3 months away from insolvency," Marcus said. The bankruptcy filing came 2 weeks later. Sterling Industries officially filed for Chapter 11 protection on a Friday morning, and by afternoon, business news was full of stories about the spectacular fall of a Seattle institution. I felt a strange mix of triumph and sadness. My father had built that company alongside my mother and grandfather. That it was ending like this seemed wrong, even if it was inevitable. At the asset auction the following month, I watched as bidders carved up Sterling Industries. When the auctioneer announced the final lot, Sterling Industries as a going concern, there was almost no interest. I looked at William Harrison, who nodded slightly. I raised my hand. $5 million. The room fell silent. For several long minutes, nobody else bid. Going once, going twice, sold to Phoenix Materials. Just like that, I owned Sterling Industries. A month later, I was walking through the headquarters building where I'd grown up. It felt surreal to be back as the owner rather than the owner's daughter. My father had completely disappeared from public view since the bankruptcy. Damien was facing criminal charges, and Serafina had filed for divorce and moved to Europe. That evening, I finally called my father. "Noah." "Dad. How are you?" "I've been better." I saw the news about your acquisition. Congratulations. Thank you. I suppose you hate me. I don't hate you, Dad. I'm disappointed and hurt, but I don't hate you. I made a terrible mistake. The worst mistake of my life. I let Serafina convince me that Damien was ready, that you needed to be reined in. I was grieving and lonely and made decisions based on emotion rather than logic. Why didn't you just talk to me? Because I knew you were right, he said, his voice breaking. I knew you were the best choice to lead the company, and I knew Damien wasn't ready. But Serafina was so persuasive, and I was tired of fighting. What happens now? Now I live with the consequences. I lost my daughter, my company, and my legacy because I was too weak to stand up for what I knew was right. You haven't lost me, I said before I could stop myself. The next day, I made a decision that surprised everyone. I called my father and asked him to meet me at Sterling Industries headquarters. I have a proposition for you, I said in the CEO's office. I want you to come back as a consultant and advisor. Help me rebuild this company the right way. He stared at me in shock. After everything I did? Because of everything you did. You taught me everything I know about business. This company was built by our family, and it should be restored by our family. What are your conditions? You work for me. You take direction from me. You never again let anyone undermine my authority. And you help me turn this company into something that would make Mom proud. He was quiet for a long time. What about Damien and Serafina? They're no longer our problem. Damien is facing criminal charges. Serafina got what she wanted and abandoned ship when things got difficult. My father extended his hand across the desk. I'd like to try. I shook his hand, noting how different it felt. This time, I was in control. Over the following months, we integrated Sterling Industries' assets with Phoenix Materials' operations. My father kept his word, working diligently under my authority and never questioning my decisions. Slowly, we began to rebuild our relationship alongside the company. The transformation of Sterling Industries, now officially rebranded as Phoenix Sterling, took 2 years. We emerged as one of the leading sustainable materials companies in the country, with contracts spanning multiple industries and a reputation for innovation and ethical practices. On the second anniversary of my removal from the board, I held a company-wide celebration. As I stood before hundreds of employees, I thought about the journey that had brought us to this moment. 2 years ago, I thought my career was over. But sometimes the universe has different plans. We didn't just rebuild a company. We built something better. Something that proves business can be profitable and ethical, innovative and responsible. After the celebration, I called William Harrison. I want to establish a new trust fund to help other women who find themselves in situations like mine. Women who have been overlooked or pushed aside. I want to give them the resources to build something of their own. What would you like to call it? I looked at my mother's portrait on the desk. The Eleanor Sterling Foundation. For women who refuse to stay down. As I hung up, I realized I had finally completed the journey my mother had envisioned. I hadn't just inherited her trust fund, I had inherited her strength, her vision, and her commitment to lifting up the next generation. The phoenix had indeed risen from the ashes, but more importantly, it had learned to soar higher than anyone had ever imagined possible. I had taken the betrayal that nearly destroyed me and transformed it into something magnificent. My father's weakness had become my strength. Damien's incompetence had become my opportunity, and Serafina's manipulation had become my motivation. I had lost everything I thought I wanted, only to discover that what I truly needed was the courage to build something entirely my own. The company that bore my family's name was now truly mine, not through inheritance or birthright, but through my own determination and vision. Standing in my office, looking out at the Seattle skyline, I thought about all the other daughters, sisters, and women who had been pushed aside by the men in their lives. The Eleanor Sterling Foundation would ensure that they too could rise from the ashes of disappointment and betrayal. The phoenix doesn't just survive the fire, it becomes something beautiful because of it. And I had finally learned to soar.